becoming a prostate cancer empowered patient is important, and there are actually a number of steps that you can take in order to move in this direction. The overlying issue is that you must educate yourself about your disease. You need to use the internet, talk to people, you talk to doctors, go to seminars, and participate in support groups where you're going to have an opportunity to meet many men who perhaps have done the treatment you're considering, and they can better educate you or teach you about what they experienced. Second and even third opinions from doctors are important. Most insurance companies will pay for that, and because cancer is not a thing that has a specific roadmap, it's important to see alternative options and get second opinions. And I always urge men, when they get a second opinion, to go to a different institution than they're seeing their primary doctor at. Sometimes doctors don't want to contradict or suggest something that's different than somebody who works in their institution. Your personal feelings are really important, and you should give credence to them. Most people don't respect their opinions. They think, well, the doctor knows best. But the bottom line is, when you leave the doctor's office, it's you who goes home with whatever the results are. So listen to your heart, listen to your gut, and listen to what your feelings say about making decisions. Prostate cancer gives us the option, in most cases, to spend time thinking about what we want to do, to understand the upside and the downside of our treatments and our decisions. Prostate cancer does not kill in most cases as quickly as many other cancers. So use this time. It's a gift. When making treatment decisions, even though you're speaking with other men who may have been in the same position, remember that your cancer is unique to you. You're a unique person, and because someone had a certain experience doesn't mean that you're going to have the same result that they are. Teamwork, as I've mentioned, learn from survivors, learn from your doctors. You're a part of a team. You're a primary part of the team. So teamwork is important. Learn from other survivors and your doctors. But remember, how you feel about something is important. You're as much a part of that team, maybe the most important part of that team, because in fact you're the captain and you're the coach. When you look at treatment decisions, we all look at statistics, survival, chances of reoccurrence. But remember, statistics are measures of group trends. They don't say what's going to happen to you as an individual. So use the statistics, but once you've made a decision, remember there's only one statistic that matters. That's the statistic of one. That's the statistic of you. And then once you've made a decision, don't look back. As long as you're comfortable with that decision. Because whatever happens, it doesn't matter because you can't undo it. What's important is to look forward and say, I have this side effect, this did work, this didn't work. There's no reason to say, I should have spent more time making a decision, I didn't make a good decision, because as I've suggested, you've taken time to make that good decision. Find the right doctor. For men with metastatic or advanced prostate cancer, they should move from their urologist to a medical oncologist, but find a medical oncologist who specializes in the treatment of prostate cancer. A general medical oncologist or oncologist who treats 15 different cancers is not going to be as cutting edge, specific to your disease, as will somebody who specializes in it. Go to the best possible healthcare facility. But when you go to meet these doctors, and you should interview your doctors before you decide on a doctor, remember that being a doctor in today's world is big business. And there are some doctors who allow the big business aspect to take too much of a part of what they suggest. So always have a little cynicism in anything they tell you. Ask questions ask questions again, and then even ask more questions. That's your right. It's your obligation. Figure out, after you meet with the doctor and ask these questions, can they allow you to be an active member of the team? How are you going to communicate with this doctor when you see them face to face at a meeting? And more importantly, when you're at home and you have a question or a problem, will they respond to you by email if that's what you want? Will they call back? What is their policies? These are really important. You want to find a doctor who is going to be who's going to use a system that you're comfortable with. When you see a doctor, I always recommend one of two things. The ideal is both. Bring somebody with you. It's amazing how we as cancer survivors don't hear all the time exactly what's being said. I can't tell you how often I've gone into a meeting with my wife and I come out and I say, well, isn't that great? Doctor said so and so, and she said, no, he didn't say that. And as I think back after I get feedback from her, I realize that more often than not, she's correct. I'm under a lot of tension, and when you go into a doctor, if you're the survivor, you're under a lot of tension. And sometimes our memory and our perceptions of what happens in that meeting is not as accurate as we would like it. In the ideal situation, bring a tape recorder to your meetings. There are some people who advocate hiding the tape recorder or using their cell phone. I don't think that's fair to a doctor, but I also, I like to ask the doctor, are you okay with recording it? I am a little hesitant with a doctor who has an objection to that because I want them to be careful in what they say to me and what they recommend. Ask the doctor how many times they've done a particular treatment, especially if you're thinking of your radiation or surgery as a primary treatment. There's a lot of evidence that the more experience a doctor has in using a treatment, the better the results and the less side effects. So ask the doctor, how many surgeries have you performed? How many do you do each week? And make sure it's a very robust number. Ask the doctor what their opinion is about using off-label drugs. A doctor can legally do that. And make sure that you're okay with whatever their opinion is. Ask the doctor what clinical trials may be available and what's their attitude about, recommending and helping you get into a clinical trial that may make sense. And the most important part, find out from the doctor by asking them, what do you see my role in making treatment plans and decisions going forward? I think it's important to learn how to manage your doctor and how to manage your insurance company. Managing your doctor, to me, means making sure that they see you as a person, that they don't just see you as the patient in room A. You have to personalize your experience so they know who you are, and that takes a little bit of effort. Share the fact that you have children or grandchildren. Bring a picture. Talk about their accomplishments. Talk about what you do. Make yourself a person to them. You're going to get better attention. And with your insurance company, you can do the same thing, but you also have to let the message be known if you have an issue over a payment or reimbursement, that you're going to be there and you're going to fight them, that you're not a person who's just going to go away and they're never going to hear from. Because that's important, especially as we move on to the more advanced treatments. Get copies of all of your medical records that for any test you've had, and especially for any test you have going forward. Get copies of these, read them, make sure you understand them, and ask questions if you don't understand them. Take all of these records and put it into a notebook in a chronological order. This way you can always go back and re-look at something if there's a question, and then if you want to go on and have a second opinion, you already have all of your medical records gathered and in one place. You now don't have to go around and try to gather them and wait 2, 3, 4, or 5 weeks. You have them. So that's important. That binder is going to become your Bible going forward. And again, it's an opportunity to ask questions when you go back over these tests. You can certainly bring some of these tests, if you don't understand them, to a support group, but most important, ask the doctor. Well, what does this mean? This is out of the normal range. Is this something I need to worry about? Why? Why not? How is it going to affect me? Keep asking those questions. The federal government has some great opportunities to learn about cancer. I always recommend that someone gives a phone number of 1-800-4-CANCER. That's the number 4, CANCER. Go to lectures. If you're in a bigger city, contact the hospitals and find out if they have any support groups, if they have lectures where people are going to come and talk about what they do. You need to become an expert on prostate cancer. Never discussed, but if you're a younger man and you're not 190% sure that you're never going to want another child, before you do treatment, think about banking some sperm. Because once you have a treatment, you're not going to be able to have children. And it's a small investment, and it's well worth it, and no one ever recommends that. Go to the web. We all do that without my having to tell you, but what's important is how to understand what on the web is legitimate and good and what isn't. So when you look at a web page, look at usually if you click the About section of it, it'll tell you who's sponsoring that web page. Is it a pharmaceutical company? Is it a advocacy group? That'll give you an idea as to whether or not there's a bend to what they're recommending or they're saying. Look to see how old the postings on the web page are. In prostate cancer, things are changing relatively quickly, and you want to make sure that the information you're reading is contemporary. There are a number of online support groups that are excellent. MaleCare, the organization I work for, we run an advanced prostate cancer support group that's international in its composition. We have a group for men who are diagnosed under 50. We have a group for men who are gay, and there's a stack of them. But there are also other organizations that have similar types of services. This is an opportunity to get online and to meet other people who have been where you are. It's the other thing I said is government sites. Medscape.com, medscape.com is an excellent page, and it's got good, reliable information. Also go to clinicaltrials.gov. There's a listing for all of the registered clinical trials, the criteria for entrance into it. But when you are thinking of a clinical trial, make sure you take the information back to your oncologist and discuss it, and make sure that your doctor believes it makes sense for you to do. Let him explain some of the upsides and downsides. So that's important. Be prepared for unexpected emergencies. I always recommend that someone has a medical alert card in their pocket. If you don't want to pay the money for the company, you can make one of your own. I actually type out my medical history, my emergency contact information, the medications that I take, and the surgeries that I've had, and I shrink it down. I use Word, the program. I shrink it down so that the whole thing fits on two sides of a business card. I then cut it out, take a business card, and tape it to my business card, so I have a pocket-sized business card-sized emergency medical alert in my pocket. I think it's also important to remember being diagnosed with cancer is not a punishment. You're not being punished for something you did in this life, in a last life, whatever you believe. Cancer is a disease. Just like a cold and a flu, it's just a tad more serious. It's not your responsibility, it's not your fault, and you're not an evil person because you have had cancer. But also remember, having cancer does not end your life. I was diagnosed with cancer almost 12 years ago, with prostate cancer. My earliest cancer, which was thyroid cancer, was 24 years. I am feeling today as healthy and as happy as I was prior